Hello and welcome to Talking Schmidt. I'm your host, Eric Schmidt.
Hello, I'm Greg Burmeister.
And today we have the hilarious comedian and podcast host, Brandon Collins. Brandon, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for matching the style.
Well,
lasers.
You told me you were wearing a suit, so well, actually, you showed up in a suit, and we were like, well, Greg and I have to try to match now. This is not my apartment, so I had to put on one of Greg's. I had to put on one of Greg's suits. It's a little snug, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, Greg. All your blazers have like Vegas nightclub energy.
I feel really bad for anyone just listening, by the way. Not getting the full look.
I feel like every blazer's ready for 9 p.m. on like the strip, probably downtown-ish, Vegas.
No solid color.
Greg goes twice a year just to shop. He doesn't gamble. He just buys his jacket.
I can see that too.
What did you were dressed up for something today?
Yeah, I had awards luncheon.
Oh my gosh! Well, congratulations.
Well, I didn't win anything.
Oh, okay.
I got to give away an award, but
that's cool, man.
It's for African American Film Critics Association. They host this annual luncheon for Broadway at black actors, creatives, things like that. And so once a year, there's this amazing luncheon at a great steakhouse.
Ooh.
And
Which steakhouse?
Del Fresco's.
Was it in Midtown?
Yeah. It's off of right by Rockefeller Center.
Oh, the one that's like kind of in Rockefeller Center?
Yeah.
Oh, a buddy of ours used to work at that one until he got fired for giving away too many drinks.
I can see that. They're very.
We won't name that.
I've never seen a venue where like everyone who works there is like beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But they all seem like they secretly are like on edge of like losing everything. It's like one of those suspenseful like horror film, like thrillers from the late 90s, early 2000s, with like Joshua Jackson and shit. You're like, something's nefarious is happening here.
Well, I'll tell you something about the idiots they hire there. Apparently one time, like Michael Che walked in, he works upstairs, and, and he walked in and was wearing a hat, and one of the people didn't know who he was. I'm like, sir, you got to take off the hat. And then the manager was like, no, you don't.
Your money is good.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to take like a worse turn, like where he got kicked out or something like that.
No.
Okay, they were able to course correct very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So let's just jump right to talking about film, actually, since that's the reason you're dressed up.
Yeah.
You've been a reviewer, a critic, I guess, of film for a while.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Like, because initially started off Medium Popcorn, just the movie review podcast. And it started off with just me talking to a microphone, talking about movies, like movie news or things I just watched.
That's how long you've been doing that podcast?
It's been a long time. It's been at least I started like about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And then I just stopped it because I was like, this is just sad. It's just me talking to a microphone. And then my friend Justin, who I did a sketch comedy group, he's one of the first friends I made in comedy in New York. And I was like, dude, we can talk about anything, but like we both really like talking about movies. So why don't you do this with me? And then we record our theme song. And once we had the theme
song's great, by the way.
Once we had that locked in, there's legal reasons why I don't often play it on other podcasts. But
no, it's okay. Yeah.
But it's fantastic, folks.
You'll have to go and check it out after you listen to this full podcast.
Once we locked it in, we were like, yo, this is gold. We got something. And then it kind of started building a following, and we got written up about in RogerEbert.com.
Shout
out to Craig Lindsay, who wrote that feature for us. And then got an email out of nowhere, like Rotten Tomatoes, like, hey, we're starting this new initiative to make sure that they're like, we're fostering more diverse voices in the critic circles. We'd love for you guys to be Rotten Tomato critics. And it was hilarious because at the time we weren't really seeing ourselves as critics. We're comedians that talk about movies, right? Mm-hmm. And so for about 2 years, we had a transcriber from Rotten Tomatoes. I'm blanking on his name, otherwise I'd say I'm sorry. I do a public apology. But he had to transcribe our reviews and basically break them down from an hour of madness to like 3 sentences to summarize our review of the movie. And sometimes we would say some really wild stuff, and I would get emails from him, and he would quote me verbatim and be like, dude, you don't have to do that. He would even he'd just be like, dude, ... And I'm like, I'm sorry, man.
So sorry.
There's just this guy I have to send these links every week for Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, oh man, he probably both loves and dreads this moment, because this is gonna make me laugh really hard, but there's gonna be some really disturbing shit on here.
That's okay.
Just to talk about Finding Nemo, you know. like weird.
Wow, that's how long you've been doing it since Finding Nemo.
We do old and new movies too.
Oh, that's
so,
right. Yeah,
so it's always unpredictable for the guy too.
Yeah.
So it was like now we post our own reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but before he was kind of like, I don't know what I'm getting next week, and it was, his reactions made it worth it, but also I felt really bad sometimes.
So your favorite film, I heard you say on another podcast, I just want to make sure it's still correct, is Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Such a good movie.
Yes.
Still number one?
Still number one. It fluctuates a lot between Jurassic Park, Dark Knight, and City of God, but Jurassic Park has been consistently like number one.
Yeah, Dark Knight's
fantastic.
one of my favorite movies too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So good.
So I started going to see old movies in like the old theaters. I don't know. I've lived in New York since 2009, and just like this year, I was like, you know what I'm going to get into? And I was like, these are great. And I'm just like telling other people, and they're like, yeah, we know about that, you idiot. But I saw 2007 film, There Will Be Blood, and
awesome.
for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I just somehow had missed that one. And so I saw it on the big screen, and it's fantastic on the big screen. Have you seen it on the big screen, or did you see it originally on the big screen?
That's so wild that you said that, because after Boogie Nights, P.T. Anderson, I was seeing like opening weekend until after I got burned in Inherent Vice.
Okay.
I was seeing like, it started with Magnolia, and then I was seeing every opening weekend I would see. So There Will Be Blood.
So you've been a real cinephile for like since
for a
childhood,
long time.
Yeah.
Long time, yeah.
But anyway, it was great. But I still think I like No Country for Old Men better. Which won the Academy Award that year.
Yeah,
for Best
so
Picture,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
But performance-wise, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, that's what's so great about that film. The cinematography is unreal, and especially
fantastic.
I had no idea what the cinematography would be like. I knew it was a very bleak film, a very like sad film.
I don't think it's that sad.
I mean, it's pretty depressing. Like, it's dark. It's darker than even, I think, No Country for Old Men. I think No Country for Old Men has a little bit of a wink and a nod to it that it's just
That's so interesting, because I have the opposite impression. I feel like No Country for Old Men, it gives you enough hope where the ending is heartbreaking with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
Whereas There Will Be Blood, from very beginning, you're like, Daniel Plainview is a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah.
And you're going to watch him thrive.
It is funny too. I mean, it is funny.
It's
I just
really
feel
funny.
like it is darker than I typically like my darker comedies. Which like I didn't, and I now that's the only one that has ever crossed the line. Actually,
It's because he wins at the end.
I guess I don't know, man. It's just like I'm just like, this is a little too much. That I feel like I could do. It's also just like it's the Wild West for most of it, and it's just fucking just everything seems to suck. You know?
I mean, he takes advantage of like very weak people, people that he deems beneath him, and unfortunately for a lot of the folks he encounters, he happens to be the smartest one in the room, and he's a savage.
But if you would say that Dark Knight is in your top three and not that film, I'm guessing you think Dark Knight is a better movie made in the 21st century than that movie.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that movie. So I went to that. I think it was opening night in the theater. Heath Ledger is just so good.
It's fantastic. I've seen Dark Knight in the theater conservatively at least 10 times. Jurassic Park I've seen over 20 times in the theater.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I saw it so many times, and then any re-release, I see it all the time.
I think I only saw it once on the big screen the first time I saw it when I was a kid.
That's the only time you saw it?
No, I'm sorry. The only time I saw it on the big screen.
In the theater.
I remember my grandfather took me to that, and man, he was like, we were walking out, he's like, what the hell was that?
the greatest movie ever made.
Like, what happened? And then he had the same reaction to Space Jam, by the way. He just
I can see that. That's madness. That movie's insane. Even as a kid, I remember seeing that opening weekend with my mom, because my mom was such a huge Michael Jordan fan. And I remember I was like, that was pretty crazy. Like I enjoyed it obviously as a kid, but I'm like, that's some wild stuff we just saw.
It had like the perfect mix though of like real the live action. It had a really nice mix, incorporating Bill Murray and Larry Bird into it. I thought was great. Space Jam. We brought you here to just talk about Space Jam.
Yes.
Really, I hope
also
that's
a big Bugs Bunny fan.
I'm all with that.
I mean, look at Greg. He looks like a big Bugs Bunny fan. Okay, so was Jurassic Park the movie that got you into trying to write films yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, no. The movie that actually got me into writing screenplays was Scream.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Williamson, 1996. I remember like I I forgot how I got to see it, and I wasn't supposed to watch it. Scream,
Sure, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I watched it with a bunch of friends.
Yeah,
in high
my
school.
mom wasn't home, and I watched it, and I was freaking out because I'm like, I'm terrified. I'm already scared of cat about horror films, but I've never seen a horror film that was also a murder mystery that was so good at the twist of like revealing who the killers are.
Yeah, the two, because the whole time you just think it's
just one,
Yeah.
and then it's just like the building suspense, and it's so tight.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put like a spoiler alert situation on this episode.
And I was very
seen
like
this movie in 28 years.
yeah, right. That's insane if you get spoiled on the screen. But I was just like enthralled by it, and then my mom and I I grew up an only child, single mother, and my mom every Sunday we would like go to a bookstore and get like a new book or a magazine or something like that, and I discovered that they printed screenplays at Borders bookstore, Shard the Borders, R.I.P.
Yeah.
And I saw Scream by Kevin Williamson. My mom bought it for me. And I just studied the hell out of the format. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I had an old school typewriter, and I just started writing like scripts that like mimic the style that I saw in the paper about.
It's insane. You don't look old enough to have written screenplays on a typewriter.
No, I'm very like I have an old soul, man. Well,
I'll say, good God.
Well, also we didn't have a computer yet.
Right.
I think a lot of folks forget that like some people didn't have computers in their home till late 90s, early 2000s, right? Because of the affordability. And so I had a typewriter.
That's I actually do remember writing, doing things for school on a typewriter before we had a computer as well. So.
Yeah. I grew up in Ann Arbor, so like at our school we were good. Like everyone had there was computers like galore. We had the brand new Mac, the colorful Macs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
we had gateways. I remember. Well, like my family did,
PC,
and then
those were nightmares.
Yeah. Oh man,
David died after like 2 months.
Yeah, we had nothing better than Sim City on a gateway. That's
very specific.
Slow.
Windows 95, dude. Get out of town,
just
man.
no processing power.
Oh my god, those operating systems were such garbage.
You get the discs in the mail for like free. A free 20
For
hours
AOL
of
and stuff,
internet.
Go hang out in a chat room with old men claiming to be something they're not.
Y'all remember there was a period where the Net, starring Sandra Bullock, was like the craziest thing in regards to technology.
Oh sure,
Everything that first came out.
Dude, yeah. So anyway, back to Scream real quick. By the way, I remember when I was. What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in 2004.
Okay, so I'm a year older than you.
Yeah, we're all 1 year apart.
Yeah. So I'm a year older than you, and like, I was at that age where like I was a little young to watch Scream when it came out, and I remember my dad took me over to a friend of ours, a friend of his house, and they were watching Scream, and it had just started. We were like, "Hey, what's up?" And they were like, "Watch this movie."
Hello,
and
Sydney.
Then the way that opening scene ends, my dad was just like, "You know what? I think I'm gonna take my kids and we're just gonna get out of here."
That's a gnarly opening scene.
Fucking gnarly first scene, man.
Yeah, they lost their bite a little bit after Scream 2. Scream 5, they kind of got it back. Because Scream 2, the opening with Jada Pinkett Smith is pretty rough, too.
I actually haven't seen Scream 2. I'm planning to watch it for the first time.
What is going on with you, Eric? what is these movie gaps are so odd. You haven't seen There Will Be Blood. You haven't seen...
Now I have. But
yes.
I was planning to I'm going to watch it this Halloween season because I saw it's on Max. This episode brought to you by Max. Check it out. So you get into screenwriting at like 10 years old, I think is what you said. Yeah, that would be timing specific. How do you have any of your first scripts?
No, the oldest script I have is a script I wrote like freshman year in college. That's like super depressing. It's about these two brothers in Chicago, and like their life is just shit, and like it gets worse. It's just the most overdramatic like. It's so cringy. It's called the Williams Brothers, by the way.
It's called the what?
The Williams Brothers.
The Williams Brothers.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's
like 180 pages, I think.
Jesus Christ! Well, you're a prolific writer, even.
It's like a 3 hour. It's like a Scorsese film.
It's so long.
Well,
it's so sad.
Let's get it greenlit. Let's get that thing made,
it's
man.
So bad.
No,
that's one of the few things I will never reread because it's just. I just look at the page length and I'm like. After everything I learned about the industry and the business, I'm just like, that's insane that I did that.
Did you go to Chicago a lot, like traveling living in Ann Arbor, or like, did you have like a familiarity with Chicago?
I went to Chicago a few times growing up in Ann Arbor. Like I would go every other year or so, and then I went with my friend Barron, our senior in high school, to like Columbia, Chicago.
Okay.
That was like the last time I was in Chicago, actually.
So, but you felt familiar enough with it to set a screenplay there?
Yeah. It was
Well, you were living in New York when you wrote it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I had no rhyme or reason.
They say write what you know, but I guess.
Yeah. Sometimes I mean, the screenplay that got me into the Universal Writers Program is about these two brothers again, but they're growing up in Harlem.
Okay.
And the idea for that one, this actually is one I've gone back and reread because it actually is a lot of fun. So it's about these two brothers. It's inspired by the Boondocks.
Yes.
The comic strip and the TV show.
TV show, yeah.
And it's these two twin brothers, and one of them is on a newspaper route, and this white woman gets hit by a car. These two dudes grab her and put her in this like secret black car. And unbeknownst to the kid, she dropped the iPad in his tote bag, like his newspaper tote bag. And it turns out the iPad has like all these secret government files and all this stuff.
Now we're
so
talking.
then this like secret
here we
underground
go.
organization is trying to get this kid from Harlem.
This is way better than the Williams Brothers
Yes,
script.
it's so much better. Oh God, I'm like
The brothers from the
I
south
can't
side
tell
of
you how
Chicago.
bad I feel. So just thinking about the Williams Brothers because I know what happens. In it. It's just so bad.
It just takes 3 hours to get there.
It takes 3 hours just to like literally, both of the brothers are dead. And you're like, okay.
It's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's just really nothing for a while, and then all of a sudden it really gets going. So, seen that one? Huh?
Have you seen all the Tarantino movies?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I can't think of one that I would have missed. I am going to try and go see Pulp Fiction showing at like Metrograph, I think, and
okay.
that'll be the first time I see that on the big screen. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
yeah,
try
I
and
haven't
go
seen
see
Pulp
that.
Fiction on the big screen.
Aha.
But
You want to go?
no, I'm okay. I don't need to see the whole needle and the chest.
okay.
the big screen.
All right.
The magic marker.
There's some
and
Pulp Fiction scenes where I'm like, I'm okay with
Yeah.
Yeah.
the little screen on that one.
the basement.
Yeah, the basement scene.
yeah.
Definitely one I tend to look away from. I remember one time we were playing this like film game. We were like, we were trying to figure out which character you'd rather be from which movie, and Pulp Fiction came up, and I was like, oh man, I'd want to be Marcellus Wallace. Like, I mean, he's got the best life. Completely forgetting that scene.
Yeah.
I was just like, and then everyone was like, well, wait, what about that? And I was like, oh yeah, no, I guess no, I don't want to be Marcellus. There's not many people that have like a great time in that movie.
Samuel Jackson's the one you want to be because he's the one that gets out alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on what we know of the timeline, he's the only one that is okay.
He's also the coolest. Didn't you interview him for?
Yeah, when I was allowed to get into AFCA, I applied like during the pandemic. The African American Folk Critics Association. The first roundtable that I got to be a part of was for Samuel Jackson and his.
Oh, that's so cool.
For this documentary that he did, and that's my first celebrity interview.
That's nice.
Wow,
Is that out somewhere? Could
Yeah,
that
it's
be
on the Medium Popcorn podcast YouTube page, so youtube.com/Medium Popcorn.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're all. I mentioned earlier you're a stand-up comedian as well. In some of your material that I've seen you do, you reference that you have Republican grandparents, or I guess had Republican. Are they still around? Or?
Yeah, my grandfather's still around, but he doesn't know if he's Republican or a unicorn. Okay. So, yeah.
Well,
He's doing okay.
So, but then I heard you reference it on another podcast, and I was like, well, I thought it was just a joke. I didn't know it was like for real. But
No. Like,
okay.
most of the stuff I say on stage is pretty biographical.
I thought maybe you were just like maybe they're just kind of conservative.
No, I'm
really,
not Hassan Minaj you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. But like there's a picture of my grandparents and my mom with Ronald Reagan at like
wow.
yeah, like the convention.
How old's your mom at the time?
My mom, she was like in her mid-20s.
Okay, so she was.
Because she had me when I was 86. So yeah, she was like Republicans for a University of Michigan. Like she was the college Republican. Yeah, everything.
Wow.
Were you the only? Well, I mean, I guess you grew up in Ann Arbor. There were probably a lot of conservatives around Ann Arbor.
Not. I mean, maybe, but like most of the families, like whatever political awareness I did have, is like this is a pretty liberal town. Like they were very big into the LGBTQ community. Like there was rainbow flags all over campus, and like there was just it felt very liberal.
Right.
Like my family did feel like an anomaly out of everything I was encountering, conversations with adults, and just what I knew about the politics of Ann Arbor.
Was it a pretty like white town or?
Yes.
All right, but I mean, you had black friends though. I'm sure.
No, I didn't.
Really?
I didn't have any black friends until high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
At that
I
point,
was in a very odd place growing up. Like, like growing up just the way like I was, the things I was interested in, how my grandparents and my family raised me, I was just I never conformed to like what you would expect of a black kid, so to speak, like, right? So I like, with my grandmother, she would show me, instead of like some black shows like Emblem Cover or something like that, she would show me like Evening Shade and Murphy Brown and Designing Women, you know what I mean? So I was like growing up with that stuff like that, and then
even the Cosby Show is pretty conservative.
We didn't even really watch the Cosby Show as a family.
Wow.
Like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Well, good. You got out clean then.
But Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and like Martin were like stretching it.
Yeah, I grew up watching Martin, man. It came on after The Simpsons. Love that show.
Yeah, like even Simpsons, like it's wild. Like I just like different stuff. I watched like a lot of Nickelodeon cartoons.
Yeah,
so my comedy sensibility was really weird.
Yeah.
I listened to everything, so I listened to like a lot of pop, and hip hop at the time would be like in the bottom of the list. Even country would be like above.
Really?
Hip hop,
like 90s country or like
Shania
cool
Twain and stuff like that.
So
yeah,
no,
man.
not cool country.
Like, no, terrible. And so like I just never really that wasn't accepted at the time, especially in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Because remember, this is a time before like Donald Glover, Kanye, like all these guys who were quirky, weird black dudes, and it just wasn't represented in any kind of media.
Kanye, quirky and weird.
Remember, College Dropout. Remember, he was the dude like who wasn't a gangster, who was a Rockefeller. He had the backpack, the little like the
double,
blazer, and the college teddy bear thing.
Yeah,
and people were like, this guy is weird because he's not rapping about killing people and bitches and stuff.
He's not Tupac or
exactly.
I'm glad he became normal. I'm glad he's doing okay.
That breaks my heart,
normal,
man. That because honestly, like that kind of representation, like that's what helped me get through high school.
Yeah,
that's what helped me get through like my first years in college. Like seeing people on such a huge platform or stage, the way some of these musicians and actors have been, especially the past few years. Like I wish I had that, because that would have just given me a new level of confidence, because you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't see that representation, you're like, it's already hard enough to be me, and now to try to be that pioneer, it's like, it's very daunting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I loved Kanye back then. I mean, and I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
What a.
Even he admits it. He's like, I miss the old Kanye too. I'm like, dude, take your meds.
You're the one that can do something about this.
You can go back.
Yes.
Only you can prevent mental fires, man. You gotta put this out. But you also, I mean, you have, as you mentioned, you had quite a musical, a wide range of musical interests. One that I also was into at the 2004 time, Dave Matthews Band.
Yes.
So when did you start listening to the Dave Matthews Band?
I started listening to Dave Matthews in grad school.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
yeah, it was pretty late in life, because when I was growing up, I didn't like Dave Matthews because my school bully basically like teased me. Like I didn't know who Dave Matthews was, and he had gone to a concert in Detroit, and he was being very braggadocious. I'm not bitter about it, because I don't remember every detail about this, but basically he was like teasing me because I didn't go to this concert, and he was like, "Oh, it's because you're poor," and so like I just had this subconscious hatred towards Dave Matthews.
Wow.
And then I just heard Gray Street one time when I was in grad school. I don't know how I heard it, and I was just like, I love this.
Yeah, you're like, all right, this music's actually pretty
and
good.
I just went down Dave Matthews wormhole and never
What
came
a
out.
great opportunity to discover that, though, to have missed it for so long, and then to be able to listen to it with fresh ears. I often wish that for myself, but it's not something you can get back, unfortunately. But you also saw Michael Jackson in concert?
Yes, that was the first concert I ever went to.
Wow.
So you're probably the only human who has seen both Michael Jackson and Dave Matthews Band live.
I mean, maybe. I feel there's probably more than us, but yeah, it was very odd because I didn't realize that was the Michael Jackson tribute concert to himself. And this actually in 2001. It was the weekend before 9/11.
Whoa!
So we were in New York City for we were looking at schools and stuff like that, and just going to Broadway shows. And then my mom took me to this concert. So it's Madison Square Garden. And it was like Michael Jackson, of course, but then he had celebrities like Marlon Brando and Chris Tucker, then Usher, Whitney Houston, Britney Spears, Mark Anthony. In the audience, I remember Destiny's Child and like O-Town and NSYNC were in the audience.
Everyone.
Like everyone, Jackson 5. It was so insane.
Damn, they got O-Town?
Well, they were in the audience. So I was like, oh, but it's around the time of the show and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, it's O-Town. And that was the first concert I went to. It was really long.
Yeah.
It was like a 4 or 5 hour concert because there were so many long like pauses between transitions to songs, and he would sometimes just walk out in the audience like with an umbrella, and that would take like 45 minutes.
Did you travel to New York often, like growing up, or?
Not really. Like not until I got to high school because I was very, and my mom also wanted to move to New York after I graduated high school too. But I was very upfront, like at the end.
Your mom wanted to move here too?
Yeah.
So you're like, I've got to, I want to. My dream is to move to New York, and she's like, you know what? Me too.
Basically,
I love
kinda,
that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Because at the end of middle school, I remember being like, I'm not staying in Michigan. Like, I just like I knew like I couldn't stay there. I wasn't going to make it, and I'm like, I gotta either go to New York. I gotta go to a city, New York, Chicago, because I just hated the lack of diversity. I hated how restricted I felt in Ann Arbor, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. So it was always gonna be New York, California, Chicago, or maybe even Canada. It was like just not going to be Michigan.
Gotcha. Well, glad you came up, and you ended up in school where?
At St. John's in Queens, New York.
Cool, man.
Yeah. I went to school with J. Cole.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really weird. I used to make fun of him, and he clearly won that battle.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching now, J. Cole, congrats.
You did it.
He was a student president of an organization called Horrifying, and it was one of the first organizations I joined when I started my freshman year. I remember being like, "Hey, man, you look like a bootleg Chris Brown," and he'd be like, I'm like, I didn't know.
Maybe you sent him on his trajectory. Actually, maybe it was your bullying that inspired him.
I'm so glad that there's no diss track with a B. Collins or anything like that in it, because I could not survive that. My rap skills are terrible.
So you saw this great Michael Jackson concert,
yes,
and then 9/11 happens, and you're like, I got to move to New York. That was the
I was always
that's where I want to be.
Wow, that's actually interesting. To my recollection, that never gave me pause about moving to New York.
Yeah.
Like I was never.
Well, what year did you move here?
I moved here in 2004.
Wow. I mean,
August of 2004.
Not that long.
Yeah, 3 years after.
Yeah.
I moved in 2009. By then, we were
I mean,
fine.
after that, there's bigger fish to fry. There's a financial crisis. Not saying that 9/11's not important, but there's more immediate things we had to deal with.
Yeah, and then there was Sandy, and then the pizza rat. We've had our problems in this city. But you grew up traveling quite a bit, right?
Yes. My black conservative family, despite their political leanings, they were very much about going to different countries and really absorbing other cultures. Like, I
feel like that's kind of a classically conservative of that time period thing. I feel like the Reagan conservatives.
Oh, that's a fair point. Like, I don't interact with too many. Like, some of my best friends are conservatives, but they have more modern takes on things, right? Like, but not as extreme as like MAGA, but like,
right.
I don't know about conservatives at that time. My grandparents were very interesting because they were physically very conservative and then socially conservative about some things. But my grandmother was very big on like taking me to different countries, learning about different cultures, not being ignorant, being very open-minded. And that's not just for like different ethnicities or religious backgrounds, things like that, but also in regards to like sexual orientation, stuff like that. And so I'm dealing with this in therapy, but I'm like, there's a lot of like interesting things happening there. And I think that's why I am more open-minded to having a more diverse group of friends and things like that politically.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I came up, I'm from Florida. Yeah. So like I have, a lot of conservative friends as well.
Did we ever talk about how my grandparents lived in the villages during the last?
We have not talked about that.
But you don't know that is though, right?
Yeah, of course I know what that is.
Oh man, yeah.
Wait, when did they live there?
They were like one of the first people to get like land in the villages.
What?
Like early 2000s, they were there.
So they were hipsters for the villages.
Pretty much,
the trailblazers.
Yeah, because they moved around Michigan to get further away from my grandmother's family in Detroit, and then they just were like, "Hey, there's this new spot in Florida. We bought some land. We're gonna build a house. We'll see y'all when we see y'all." And when I would go to the villages, it was the first time in a while where I felt like a whole community was kind of staring at me.
Yeah.
And it's for a few reasons, because they're actually very big on like not having outsiders. It doesn't matter what race or age you are. They're like, if you're under a certain, like if you're under like 55, they're like, you don't belong here.
It's strictly an age thing.
Yeah, but they get sloshed out there, guys.
Oh yeah,
they have 3-for-1 drinks out there. Yeah, they get drunk and drive around golf carts.
Those old people are turning up.
I've never. I've never been, but I've heard plenty of tale.
Yeah, and they like to get down sexually. My grandmother passed.
I'm sorry.
No, this is years ago, but I appreciate it.
I am still sorry.
But she passed, And like 5 days later, my grandfather had so many single women come into his door with like baked goods and stuff like that.
Wow.
Like not even a week.
Wow.
It's they're
Is he still there?
No, he's in the Bronx now.
Wow.
At a assisted living facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dementia got him.
Not nearly as fun as his days.
No. But what's interesting is he doesn't know where he is most of the time. And so lately he's been like having Joker-esque like scenarios playing out. Like he's like, yeah, the other day someone tried to shoot me and I fought him and I'm a survivor. And I'm just like, because you're not supposed to like contradict people with dementia. So you're just like, you're a hero, Pop. Like,
I don't know. You're not supposed to correct
Or
him.
he's like, someone stole my Pepsis. And I'm like, did you drink a Pepsi today? He's like, yeah. I'm like, it's probably you, Bob.
You stole your own Pepsi.
Well, I got to be careful too because my grandfather's like 6'5". I have material about him. He's 6'5", 200 something pounds. And he's like threatening to do citizen's arrest. So I'm like, Papa, you cannot do that. They're going to take you
They'll
out.
arrest you.
Yeah.
So back to the traveling thing, you where all would you go? Like what all were they really into
Every
doing?
damn year, like since I can remember until around
Your grandparents would go with you?
my senior year in high school, I went to Vegas.
Wow.
My grandparents kept like flirting with like moving to Las Vegas.
Have you been to the Jacket District?
Yeah,
I stayed downtown at Las Vegas a lot of times where I'd see jackets like that. Wedding chapels, nightclubs,
Fremont
at
Street.
the buffets. But yeah, I would go every year. And it got
What an interesting choice.
yeah, it was. But it was a different place, and like I fortunately I was at an age when I started going where they like were creating arcades and like more family friendly stuff. So it wasn't just like I always had to like just stay in the hotel room or in one spot. So it worked out. But yeah, when I turned of age to party in Las Vegas,
Oh wow, so it overlapped. Like you started going.
Oh
as a
yeah,
child
so when I turned 21, I went with my
and they're like,
best.
"This is the last time we're taking you to Las Vegas."
That's the family agreement. I've been there a few times after that, but I can't do Vegas. It's not good for me.
Yeah.
Like for a plethora of reasons. But when I turned 21, my family and my best friend and we went to Vegas to celebrate. My best friend's birthday is the day before mine. He's 2 years older than me, but like he's June 26th, I'm June 27th. And so we were celebrating, we're having a good time. I had a gin martini for the first time ever in my life.
Yeah.
I just turned 21, so I'm getting all these hardcore drinks, and she's like, "Oh, it's your birthday. I'm gonna make it real special." And I play penny slots. I don't do like blackjack or any of the fancy shit.
nothing
the
complex.
I do penny slots,
table games.
and I do Titanic or Sex in the City, right?
Okay.
And I won money that night. The night before, earlier that day, before I did the martini, I won $900 on penny slots. So earlier that day, and mind you, this is our last night. I'm like, "Hey, family, I'm taking you all out to breakfast tomorrow before we all fly out. Ross, we're heading to town tonight." Ross is my best friend. The first bar we went to was the martini place. I blacked out. Woke up on top of a penny slot machine that was not Sex and the City or Titanic, and I had no money.
Oh no! Just went through
Blacked out, lost
of it.
all my money.
What do you think happened? Do you think you actually spent it
No,
all?
I think
or
I spent it all. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I have gambling addictions and stuff
Okay,
like that.
all right. Well,
and
let's keep you away from those slots.
Yeah. And so I learned that I didn't learn that that might be a possibility until that night. And then I had to tell my family. I'm like, "Hey, so about the breakfast, I actually need you guys to cover me."
Yeah.
Can somebody get me a breakfast?
It's so you know how embarrassing that is.
That's pretty embarrassing.
My grandfather was so proud of me. He's like, "You did it. You figured out life." And then the next morning, I'm like, and then I heard him on the phone, but I would call my Nana to tell her, I'm like, "Hey, I need you guys to spot me." He's like, "You lost it all, didn't he?" I heard him in the back.
Well, not as disastrous as your trip to Alaska, right?
Oh man, I told you too much. Yeah. When I was 16, my mom forgot we were black and took me on an Alaska cruise. We flew to Seattle and sailed out of Seattle. It was for 7 days in July 2003, because it was right before my senior year. I just got a really cute girlfriend named Carly. I specifically remember this because I was so mad at my mom, because we were also going into the summer, but it was cold, so I had to wear sweaters. And then also the sun doesn't set in Alaska during the summer.
Yeah.
And so that was a nightmare. And then I'm definitely afraid of whales. Like
Why whales, by the way? They're not like...
Pinocchio. Yeah, Monstro.
Okay.
Fucked me up.
Yeah. Of course, it goes back to a film. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's ironic though, because one of my favorite books in the ever is In the Heart of the Sea, which is about whaling. It's about
you were going to say the Bible.
It's the Bible, the Lord's word. But In the Heart of the Sea, which is about whaling, and it's about the story that inspired Moby Dick.
Oh, okay.
And so it's so weird that ends up being one of my favorite books. But I hate whales. I hate the ocean. Like one of my biggest fears is dying in the ocean, dying in the middle of the ocean. No one's there to save me, and then also a whale comes and fucks me up. Like just a nightmare. And so my mom booked 2 excursions. One was a whale watching excursion where
she knows these fears.
Yes, my mom is I don't want to say a sadist, but she enjoys seeing her son suffer. Like she doesn't. She
doesn't just want you to face.
She's
your
like,
fears.
I love you, but like seeing you squirm and just go through some shit is hilarious to me. My wife is kind of the same.
She's just funny. She's just funny.
But if no one's laughing except you, the tormentor, that's not, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's pretty cruel. And definitely like the last thing you want in a mom.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a reason why we're estranged right now. But no, to go back to the funny though, it is, I'm very transparent about the things I like and I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm very open about that. You can just read in my body language, and she booked this and I'm just freaking out. And no offense, but there's really excited white people watching these whales, and I'm just like, they could kill us. One fucking...
The white people?
No, that too. That's that too. But the whale tail, anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
We can't control these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
How big a boat you on?
It's like a little dinghy thing. Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a rowboat.
Yeah, no, I'd want to be in a larger boat.
That's terrifying.
And we're in Alaska. Where do you?
It's a rowboat?
Yeah, it's like
You're rowing? They got you
all right.
rowing?
We're
Was
not
it just
rowing.
you rowing?
We're not rowing.
'Cause
We're
that's
not rowing.
offensive.
They got people like on the boat rowing.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
But it's like, come on, guys.
Oh, yeah, I guess they have to be quiet.
We're paying for this.
Right, but like I guess I kind of get the mentality there because I think you got to be really quiet for them to still hang around. Because if you're riding around a giant boat with a motor on it, they're probably like, get the fuck out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Were they killer whales? What kind of whales were
No,
they?
we're talking about sperm whales.
Oh my!
Oh, wow.
Those are like the biggest ones.
We're talking about sperm whales, and there were
kind of offensive name, but I mean they're big.
And we're talking about the blue white ones. They're really big still too. There's different whales.
Yes,
and I'm just
humpbacks.
maybe. And I'm just like, why is everyone excited about this?
I mean, you see videos of that all the time, like a tail hitting or one accidentally jumping on someone's boat.
By the way, I think I'm conflating the humpback and the sperm whale. It wasn't that. I just think about monstro.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Because that would have been insane. I might have had a heart attack, and I have heart disease in my family. I might have had a heart attack if I actually saw a sperm whale.
Yeah, that's what Moby Dick is, right?
Yes.
I think so.
And
Yeah.
monstro.
Yeah.
Let's not forget monstro.
Have you seen Orca, the film?
Yes.
That's pretty scary
Why did
stuff.
you bring that up, man?
Yeah, you know what?
Have you seen Orca?
Yeah.
Do you know how fucked up that movie is?
Yeah, it's like Jaws with a killer whale.
It's worse than Jaws. It's way more violent than Jaws.
Did it come out before or after Jaws?
It came out after.
Have to be, right?
Because I think Jaws was 78 or 77.
I want to say 75 maybe for
Was it
Jaws.
75?
I think it might be 75.
Yeah, because Star Wars is 77. Yeah, right. You're right. And I think Orca was like 1982.
I didn't know Jaws was in the Star Wars family. It's in the...
But
Go ahead.
I don't know. I hate the whales. And then so that happened. And then the other excursion that my mom booked was we were going to land on a glacier. We're going to take a glacier tour. And so we took a helicopter and landed on a glacier. And okay, so they did tell us not to do this, right? I have these like ice boots on, which are like spikes on your boots.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's what's going to help you walk around, but don't walk, splash, or do anything in like pools of water because your feet can get really cold really fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're only supposed to be on this glacier for 15 minutes. I get off the helicopter. I sit in a puddle of water. I'm 16 years old. Of course, I'm like, I'm stepping that puddle of water. And so I was splashing it a
Like a
little
little
bit.
girl in a rain jacket. It's like,
I splash it. My feet aren't even wet. And I'm like, oh, whatever. All right. That was stupid. Like, why'd they warn us about that? So walking around, there's a dude on the glacier already. He was sitting in a lawn
Just
chair.
chilling out on a
He's
glacier?
the tour guide. He's just sitting on a glacier. Like, that's like how his shift start
getting
with,
some sun.
His shift must start with he gets a helicopter to drop him off on a piece of ice, and he just hangs out and waits for tour guide. Like,
Wow.
that's insane. So this guy's showing us around this block of ice and talking about, oh, the sun is setting over there. That's a glacier. That's a glacier. We're on a glacier, and I'm just in the corner.
A lot
like,
of them about.
and I'm just in the corner, just like, why am I here? And then at one point, the tour guide's like, oh no. He's looking at the sky. He's like, you guys can't leave. And I remember being like, sir, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, there's clouds. Oh, it's starting to rain. Yeah, your helicopter's not going to be able to leave.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what? So I was stuck on a glacier for 2 hours until the weather cleared up.
Jesus.
And there are pictures of me just by myself in a corner of this glacier. And I'm just like contemplating life. I was probably thinking
death,
about ways to kill my mom. Like, why did I do this? Like, why am I here? That's the question I asked my mom the entire time. I probably seemed like the most entitled piece of shit son. But I was just like, kept asking her, why am I here? Why
It's supposed to be a fun vacation.
We're not supposed to go places with white people, and now look at what you've
Now we
drawn
got
us
whales
into.
and
It's so bad. But to be fair, these stories, they're they bring laughter and joy to people, and I take it like in stride, like Charlie Brown. It's like
yeah, there you go.
It's my pain can be your joy.
Well, that's good. So I think anyway. So you have a show coming up, right?
Drunk Black History.
Drunk
yes.
Black History.
Friday, November 8th at Littlefield in Brooklyn, New York.
Love that venue. By the way.
Yes,
cool.
great. Shout out to Julie and her whole crew.
And you've got some sponsors, right? You've got some
McBride Sisters, Liars Non-Alcoholic Spirits.
Liars? Is
Liars,
Liars
yeah.
Non-Alcoholic Spirits.
Yeah,
I like that.
Lyre though.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to those guys. I met them at South by Southwest. And then Sorrel Liqueur. Those are our sponsors for the show.
So some real liquor, some fake liquor. You got it, something for everybody.
The whole gambit. Because we do have some guests on the show that don't drink.
Sure, yeah.
And so it's like we wanted to like make sure that there's a product for them.
Yeah, nice to have options aside from just like plain seltzer water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it does taste like, a margarita or like, a rum and coke and stuff like that. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, what's the date on that? We'll
Friday, November 8th at Littlefield in Brooklyn, New York at 8 p.m. DrunkBlackHistory.com for tickets.
It could be an interesting week.
Yes. Yeah. Hoping for, Mrs. Harris to bring it home. She kind of needs to if that show's going to be successful. It's going to be really hard to do comedy.
Yeah.
It'd be really hard.
Because last time that guy from The Apprentice won, it was not as good for comedy as was advertised.
No, not at all. I mean, it's been weird. It's been a weird few years, man. And I think we could really use some hope right now. I think we could really use some just energy and not this looming sense of dread we've all been feeling for at least the past year. I know personally I've been feeling it. I mean,
I've kind of been feeling it since like 2015, maybe even.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
It's been like a decade of just like, what the fuck is going? And it's not like shit was great before either.
Yeah, that's what's sad about it.
It's just like it's a weird curveball. This whole situation. I feel like I'm living in some sort of insane world.
It's been tough. I mean, I remember living here in this neighborhood during the pandemic. And just, there's a period where we went on lockdown in New York, and then you've seen other city or other states, like they're just doing whatever, they're living their lives. There's still international flights coming in and out. I'm like, well, why are we locking? Like everyone should have agreed to just lock down.
Yeah.
For us to just try to contain this thing. And the fact that people weren't doing it, but in New York, we were like shut down. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is, that sense of community and that we can get through things and like challenges like this together was just gone.
Yeah.
I tried to read this book called The Great Influenza about the Spanish flu, and I read 15 pages, and it was just so relevant in regards to like the things we didn't know, the things that the medical professionals didn't know, and how that allowed the public to disregard them and their expertise. And it terrified me, and I was like, I can't do it. And that was 100-something years ago.
All right, so check out that book. Where can people find you on the?
Oh Jesus! Frodo_Black I promise I talk about more fun things than the Spanish flu, aka the Great Influenza.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Frodo_Blackens on Instagram,
Threads,
and Twitter anymore.
Not really.
Well, you're on.
I'm on there, but
you're on TikTok.
Well, yes, I'm on TikTok under Frodo_Blackens there too. I post occasionally,
Very good.
Posted a video of me being the only black person at Dave Matthews concert.
I saw that, and I was like, we can talk about Dave on the podcast.
He didn't play any of the hits. No Gray Street, no 41. No crash into me. Like,
Oh, really?
God damn it, Dave.
Yeah, so Dave, we're never booking you. You can forget it, buddy. All right, Brandon, thank you for doing the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks
Really
so much. It was a lot of
Thanks so
fun.
much.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Talking Schmidt is recorded at Burmeister Studios in
Astoria, Queens.
Opening music is by Greg Burmeister. Closing music is by
Greg Burmeister.
Our intern is Jason Travis. If you like what you've heard, please like, follow, and write a review for us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you didn't like it, please keep listening to it, but keep your opinions to yourself. If you really liked it, you can find bonus episodes over on our Talking Schmidt Patreon page. Membership is just $5 per month, and it goes a long way to buy us the equipment and bourbon we need. Thanks in advance, and hope you're doing great.